Yes, I do work at 4 a.m. as a 10-year-old. It was great.
8 years old shouldn't be getting a thigh pack on by a man alone in a room.
Right.
How does it work when you're a kid actor?
I don't know about the financial part of it. I really just do the acting.
Tons of us dream of making it big in show business, and some people are lucky enough to get into the industry early.
Yeah, I've been acting since I was 5, so my parents are always on set with me.
But is being a child star really all that glamorous?
Never.
We'll reveal some of the strict rules your favorite stars have had to follow, covering everything from what they wear to what subjects they can study.
Yes, that!
Sure, there are laws in place intended to protect young stars, but do they really go far enough to protect these child actors? You might be surprised to learn what percentage of their earnings these kids are actually entitled to after their parents take their cuts. Twinning. Have you ever been so busy at your job you wished there were 2 of you? Having a twin is a tremendous advantage if you're trying to make it as a child star because of some pretty strict regulations designed to keep kids safe while on set. Twin brothers Dylan and Cole Sprouse have used this to their advantage during their early careers. Of course, you know them from their stint on The Suite Life of Zack and Cody, but prior to that, they often teamed up to play the same character. They both starred in the movie Big Daddy alongside Adam Sandler, and they portrayed Ross's son Ben on the sitcom Friends. When one brother's time was up, the other would take his place to make a semi-seamless transition without interrupting filming. But sometimes even having 2 child stars can create an even more stressful situation. John Stamos had an issue with his young co-stars Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen when he was working on the show Full House. He thought the babies cried too much and had them replaced with a different set of twins. As Michelle's older sister Stephanie would say,
How rude.
Ironically, these new kids cried even more than the Olsen twins, and John Stamos quickly realized he'd made a huge mistake. Motivation. There are some child stars who always knew they wanted to be in show business, but you might be surprised to learn how rare that is. Cole Sprouse claimed he and his brother Dylan started working in show business when they were only 8 months old. According to him, their family needed money and put the boys to work as a way to generate income. Because of this, Cole admits acting was never something he was passionate about, and he's doubtful it's a path he would have chosen himself. Mary-Kate Olsen reports having a similar relationship with acting when she was younger, and says she often felt like a doll while on set of Full House. It's not a life Mary-Kate would ever choose for her own children if she ever has them. She and her sister were also bribed with candy in order to get them to cooperate during filming. Even though the kids are the ones putting in the hours on set, it's the parents who are ultimately in charge of their careers. The Olsen twins' parents even retained lawyers when they felt the $4,000 their girls were earning per episode wasn't enough. It was eventually raised to $25,000 per episode and capped out at $80,000 per episode. Nice negotiating. Income. You might be wondering what happens to all of the money these young stars rake in during their careers. Consider the sad story Jackie Coogan, who was not only a child star but was considered one of the very first child stars ever. His family famously squandered his fortune before he was old enough to take it over himself. He was forced to sue his mother and stepfather, which established the first ever legal protection for the earning of child stars. It's commonly known as the Coogan Act, and it aims to ensure kids get a fair share of their earning for the work they perform. This sounds great in theory, but sadly Jackie Coogan isn't the only one who has been forced to sue his own family over money. Macaulay Culkin sued his parents over control of his $17 million fortune, and it ended up in the hands of a family accountant until Macaulay Culkin turned 18. Leanne Rimes took her father and former manager to court, alleging they had taken over $7 million from her when she was a teenager. Gary Coleman fought a long and emotional court battle with his parents over his earnings, and his $1.3 million settlement was mostly eaten up by his legal fees. Percentage. It might shock you to learn that many parents feel perfectly justified in taking the entirety of their children's earnings. Jackie Coogan's mother was certainly unrepentant and claimed that she had done nothing wrong because no promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. Every dollar a kid earns before he is 21 belongs to his parents. Yikes! Thankfully things have changed since then, but how much have they really? How much of a child's earnings are safeguarded for them? After all, their parents do have to spend money in order to raise them and support their careers. Coogan's law protects a mere 15% of their earnings, which must be set aside in a trust for their personal use when they come of age. This is kept in what's called a Coogan account, but what happens to the other 85% of the money? Well, it's supposed to pay taxes, fees, and work-related expenses like travel and headshots, but sadly that doesn't always happen. Actress Misha Barton was forced to sue her own mother, who she claimed spent $7.8 million of her money on buying herself a lavish home. Leighton Meester claimed her mother spent no small portion of her earnings on plastic surgery for herself. Protection. There are some parents guilty of misappropriating their children's money, but others have their kids' best intentions at heart. Sadly, that's sometimes not enough to protect them from others looking to take advantage of them. Everyone knows Miley Cyrus rose to prominence thanks to her role on Disney's Hannah Montana. But did you know that her name on the show was originally going to be Kylie instead of Miley? She was happy when they changed it to Miley on the first day of filming, but there was an angle she and her family didn't consider. Disney now quite literally owned her name, and her mother Tish Cyrus was forced to hire a lawyer to prevent the company from steamrolling this young star. To make the situation even more frustrating, Miley has since revealed that she was probably the poorest compensated person on the entire show. Parents aren't perfect, and they have the power to potentially sign their child's lives away and get them into an awkward situation. Miley claims Disney owning her name and carefully curating her image caused her to question who she really was. Most of us remember when Miley's style changed quite dramatically, and a lot of that was symptomatic of her breaking free from Disney. Background check. Of course, there are lots of rules child stars have to follow when they're on set, but there are also strict rules adults have to follow in order to interact with them. Sadly, Hollywood has a long history of unspoken secrets and scandals, but some stars are doing their part to bring them to light. Former child star Corey Feldman has spoken out about the issues and is now an ambassador for an organization called Child USA. This organization helps work on legislation designed to protect children and help those who have been wronged seek justice. On the preventative end, California has enacted legislation requiring people who work with child actors to have certain credentials. Everyone from publicists to managers to headshot photographers are supposed to go through an FBI background check and have their fingerprints kept on file. It's a good idea in theory, but the sad reality is that many people refuse to follow this procedure. Publicists who represent kids on shows like Modern Family and Stranger Things were reportedly operating without the proper permits at one time. While some of this non-compliance may be malicious, in many cases it's simply ignorance of a law which isn't widely enough known and rarely enforced. School. As you've probably guessed by now, being an actor is a time-intensive job. It doesn't leave a ton of time for leisure activities, and even making it to traditional school can be a stretch. But becoming a child actor doesn't necessarily mean foregoing an education. The state of California mandates that specially certified studio teachers are available on set wherever children are working. These educators are trained regarding the rules of child actors and help make sure the studio is in compliance. They also provide a minimum of 15 hours per week of on-set education for their pupils. On the set of the Harry Potter movies, tutors were available on set, and yes, the kids did get to wear their wizarding robes to class. Because the costumes were so valuable, the teachers had to take a pass on potentially messy subjects like art. Instead, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint focused on math, science, and literary courses. Stand-ins. Earlier we mentioned that it really helps to have a twin if you're going to be putting in long hours on set, but the child labor laws in place can be so restrictive that this sometimes still isn't enough. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen both played the role of Michelle Tanner on Full House, but could easily exceed the time they were legally allowed to be on set. In order to keep the cameras rolling, a fake child was used in many scenes which didn't feature a close-up of Michelle. Alan Rickman once admitted something similar was done during the first Harry Potter movie for the same reason. Many scenes featured characters like Harry, Ron, and Hermione facing away from the camera, and in those scenes you're not actually looking at the child actors. Instead, it's simply short adults wearing wigs standing in while the kids are on break. Alan confessed the early days of filming with approximately 300 kids was a bit of an organizational nightmare. This little bit of movie magic was necessary. At the time, child actors were only permitted to work for 4 hours per day, but that's since changed. Now they can work for 5 hours in rehearsal or performing as long as they get a break in the middle. Auditions. It seems like parents are a massive part of the process of creating a child star, but that's not to say no kids have ever taken the lead when it comes to their career. Game of Thrones star Sophie Turner has been acting since she was a little kid, and decided to audition for the hit HBO show on a whim. Because it was so spur of the moment, she didn't even tell her parents she was doing so until she was in close consideration for the role. When HBO narrowed it down to 7 actors, Sophie finally clued in her parents about what was going on. At first, her mother was unsure of letting her daughter make such a huge commitment, but she ended up giving her approval and Sophie landed the role. How crazy is it that kids can audition for such a thing without their parents being any the wiser? Disney. There are tons of huge stars out there who got their start working for Disney, such as Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, and Miley Cyrus, just to name a few. But working for this infamous corporation comes with its own special set of rules young actors need to follow, and they're shockingly strict. Even when actors aren't on set, they're required to maintain a squeaky clean image, and this includes what they wear. When Vanessa Hudgens was 18, a revealing image of her was leaked online. Although she was legally an adult, she was playing a teen in High School Musical, and Disney was furious about the situation. Bella Thorne got in trouble for wearing a bikini which her mother had picked out for her. Disney was so upset it nearly ended up with Bella getting fired. This extends to the star's social media as well, and many young stars have social media managers direct from Disney to manage their accounts. So next time you see Dove Cameron post an exciting update regarding the Descendants franchise, just know her post must have been thoroughly vetted by Disney first. What do you think about the rules in place for child stars? Do you think they need to be more focused on keeping kids safe, or is it up to the parents to protect their own kids? Let us know what you think about this topic in the comment section, and then click on the subscribe button to get access to more great videos from us here at The Taco.